Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. We're going to be looking at American education today
Yeah.
and how it's changed over literally centuries.
Centuries, yeah.
From those like one-room schoolhouses we always see in like old pictures
Right. Yeah.
to, kids on their laptops and iPads and stuff.
Exactly, the digital age.
Yeah.
Ah.
So this will be a really interesting deep dive to
Mm.
kind of get the big picture of this whole thing.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating journey. And when you think about it, going from the single teacher with all different ages in one room
Yeah, crazy.
to the really complex systems we have today.
And we've got some great material here, kind of an introduction to this whole topic of the evolution of American education.
It
So
really highlights how much has changed. Yeah.
yeah, so let's just jump in. I guess like starting with thinking about those really early schoolhouses. Like, what was education even like back then?
Well, like you were saying, a single teacher, all ages, crammed into one room, maybe a few books if they were lucky, and the focus was really on basic literacy.
Like reading and writing and stuff.
Exactly, and often intertwined with religious instruction. It's really interesting to see how closely tied education and religion were back then.
Huh. So it wasn't just about like learning your ABCs.
No, it
Mhm.
was very much about shaping the values of the community, and that local aspect was really key. These schools were often the result of community effort, a necessity in these often dispersed populations.
So it makes sense that like not everyone had access,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm guessing things like wealth and social standing probably played a big role.
Absolutely. The material makes that very clear. Access to education was far from universal in those early days. It really depended on your family's circumstances, their background.
So when did that start to change? Like when did education become more accessible to, a wider range of people?
Well, the rise of public education was a major turning point. The idea that an informed citizenry was essential for a functioning democracy really took hold.
Makes sense. I mean, you need educated people to participate in a democracy.
Precisely. And that push for broader access really shaped the trajectory of American education from that point on.
Okay. But I'm guessing that shift to, making education available to more people probably brought its own set of challenges.
Oh, definitely. There were growing pains as the system expanded.
Yeah. Like what kind of challenges?
The sources point to some really relevant issues that we're still wrestling with today, actually.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Well, for one, student debt.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge one these days, right?
It is, and it raises some fundamental questions about the cost of higher education and, whether it's truly accessible to everyone.
And like, is college even worth it anymore with all that debt?
That's a big question. What's the expected return on investment for students?
And then there's that whole thing about teacher shortages, which we hear about all the time now.
Right, and that speaks to the complex issues around recruiting and retaining qualified teachers.
Yeah, like why would anyone want to be a teacher these days with, all the stress and low pay and stuff?
It's a tough job, for sure. And when you think about it, a lack of good teachers directly impacts the quality of education for everyone.
That's true. And then there's the whole digital divide thing.
Yeah.
Technology can be such a powerful tool for learning, but
Not everyone has equal access.
right, and that creates this whole other set of problems.
Absolutely. The shift towards digital learning is great in many ways, flexibility, new ways to engage with material, but
But it also highlights those inequalities in access to technology and the internet.
exactly. And that has become a major equity issue in modern education.
Yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right?
It really is.
Okay, so we've gone from these like basic localized schools to this huge complex system with technology and, all these challenges.
And the sources emphasize that this evolution isn't over. Education is constantly changing and people are always trying to find new solutions to these problems.
Yeah, it's like an ongoing experiment,
Yeah,
right?
in many ways, yes.
So just to kind of wrap this up, we've seen this amazing transformation of American education from those one-room schoolhouses to today's digital world with all the challenges we talked about, student debt, teacher shortages, the digital divide. But it makes you wonder what's next. What could really make a difference moving forward? So here's something to think about. What single innovation do you think has the potential to create the most positive and lasting change in the future of American education? The big question, but it's one worth considering as this story continues to unfold.